Hey everybody, it's Miss Gooding, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the 13 original colonies. It's really important to understand a little bit about their reputations and what they were known for, their crops, their weather, their people, because this really is going to take us all the way into some of the conflicts that we endure throughout the Civil War. You have some of the conflicts between the northern colonies and the southern colonies, and this lesson and this lecture are going to really kind of delineate what some of those issues are. So here we go. So the 13 original colonies are separated into 4 regions, and the 4 regions are New England. We have middle colonies, we have Chesapeake, and then we have the southern colonies. So more specifically, we have New England. It is New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. The middle colonies are New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Chesapeake are Maryland and Virginia. And then we have the southern colonies, which are the Carolinas and Georgia. And we'll be referring back to this map quite a bit. So here we go. So New England, you guys, New England was really cold. The weather was very gray. Picture like Port Angeles weather, but yet even rockier soil, higher winds, colder temperatures. It was kind of gray, and so obviously not a real great place for growing crops and that type of thing. So notice also in this image what people are wearing. They're fully clothed. They're obviously Puritans, but they have hats, long sleeves. The women are wearing petticoats. You know, all of that kind of stuff. So let's go into that a little bit more. So obviously New England is New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. This area was largely settled by Puritans. The winters were exceptionally cold. You can see from this image here that, again, they are dressed mostly very warmly. Cooler temperatures. The soil was not fertile. It was rocky. And so they really couldn't grow anything worth selling in New England. This area, because it was settled by Puritans, was a very, how do I say it, consistent, established, hardcore family values were in this area. The Puritans were very, very structured. They were they had high expectations of behavior, and men oftentimes came with their wives or with women. And so this was an area, unlike the South, where the family structure was very, very united. There was a diverse economy. So there was shipbuilding, there was fishing, hunting, woodworking, and so it was a lot of industry. It was more industrial than agricultural this early on in the history of the colonies. So New England, that's overall a picture of what New England was like. So the middle colonies, we start moving a little bit further south. It is a little bit warmer in this particular part of the United States. It wasn't United States yet, but we have New York, New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. And so this area was much more known for farming, and they were not known for the tobacco like the Chesapeake was, or cotton, which was southern, but they were more known for grains, so wheat and things like that. They were called the bread colony, and this area, in comparison to New England, they were much more religiously tolerant. And this largely stemmed from the fact that Quakers settled in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania was a proprietary colony. It was owned by William Penn. The king owed him a lot of money, and so he was able to establish his own colony, and he was very religiously tolerant. So you have a lot of people in this area that didn't see eye to eye with the Puritans in New England. But in this area, there was shipbuilding still, because all of these colonies are along the eastern seaboard. So the Atlantic. So there was still shipbuilding, and there were some deep ports and things like that where it enabled them to do that. Lumber, but not as much as in New England. So you have some farming, some shipbuilding. Okay, so there's kind of a balance. The Chesapeake colonies is where things get a little bit warmer, even more so. So you have Virginia and Maryland. Virginia, as you remember, and I talked about this in one of my previous videos, is, it's located on the Chesapeake Bay. It's humid, it's swampy, it's infested with bugs and mosquitoes and that kind of thing. But it was a largely unhealthy area for those reasons, but also because of the types of crops that were planted in that area. You may recall in the previous video, I talked a little bit about tobacco, and tobacco is an exceptionally hard crop on soil. It really robs the soil of nutrients. And so for that reason, also, it was kind of a more unhealthy area. Also, the social kind of expectations of that area, or just the social issues of that area, it made it more of an unhealthy place to live as well. Interestingly, there were more out of wedlock births in this area, and largely it probably was because of indentured servants. And you recall from the previous videos that indentured servants were brought over from England through the headright system, and the farmers that could afford to do so paid for these indentured servants' passage across the Atlantic. And then these indentured servants were to give them, or serve these people that paid for their crossing for 3 to 7 years. And once those people were done with their indentured servitude, they were still a lot of them were landless. They were poor. They were largely uneducated, and there were a lot of people that were really disenchanted in this area, which also made it kind of a more unhealthy place for people and families to be. And that is one of the reasons that Bacon's Rebellion did happen. And Bacon's Rebellion was a group of very unhappy individuals who were feeling that they were not getting the protection that they needed from our government, specifically William Berkeley, who was the governor of Virginia. And they rose up because they didn't feel supported when they were being attacked by Native Americans. You recall that these people, the indentured servants or ex-indentured servants, had to move out to the outskirts of the colony. And so they were taking the brunt of these Native American raids and attacks. And so they were just incredibly frustrated. And so largely this area, for those reasons, was a difficult place for people to exist. So then you have the Southern colonies. If any of you have traveled to the deep south of our country, you know that for a large majority of the year, it is it's really, really, really warm, which enables various crops like cotton to grow, cotton and indigo specifically. So the southern colonies were North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Largely, these colonies didn't have major cities per se right away. And the reason is because people focused on plantation life. So these large plots of land were owned by one person. They had indentured servants, and then they transitioned into having slaves. And these plantations were the center of their lives, really. And so the farmers were the largest social group of this particular region. There was very little industry. The industry really was agriculture and farming. And so it was designed, this area was designed in order to be agricultural. And so cities didn't really rise up quite as quickly. So overall, those are the regions that are very important. And you can see already that because there are such distinct factors such as weather, environment, geography, soil conditions, different attitudes of people and lifestyles, you can see already that there could be conflict between these areas, and not so much right up front, But the conflicts that lead us really to the separation between the North and South early on, you can see it early on in history. So hopefully that helps you understand the differences between the regions, and we will keep referring back to some of these identities that they held.